When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing on your mind? Is it yesterday's failure? Is it today's distractions? Or is it tomorrow's possibilities? The future isn't something that just happens to you. It's something you build, deliberately, brick by brick, choice by choice. And the truth is, most people don't secure their future because they're too busy living in the past or too comfortable in the present. But comfort is a trap. It's a silent thief. It steals your time, your fire, your hunger. If you're not careful, comfort will make you forget you even had a future to secure in the first place. The future is built, not found. It doesn't arrive like a package dropped at your doorstep. It doesn't appear in your inbox or get handed to you in a sealed envelope. You don't stumble across it by accident. The future is something you create with your own hands, your own decisions, your own effort. And yet, too many people sit back and wait. Wait for the right time, the right people, the perfect circumstances. They wait as if the future is a hidden treasure they might stumble upon someday if they're lucky enough or patient enough. But the truth is, waiting is not a strategy. It's avoidance disguised as hope. The people who move forward in life are the ones who take action even when they don't have all the answers. They build while others are still thinking. They make progress while others are still planning. Every day, you're either building your future or letting someone else build it for you. Every choice you make is a brick. Every habit you form is part of the structure. The conversations you have, the books you read, the risks you take, they all become pieces of the future you're constructing. And the quality of your future depends entirely on how intentional you are with those pieces. If you treat each day as disposable, if you treat each opportunity as optional, the result will reflect that. A weak foundation leads to a fragile life. But when you treat each hour like it matters, when you take your choices seriously, your future begins to take shape with strength, with clarity, with direction. Most people live reactively. They respond to emails. They follow trends. They do what's expected. They think building the future means doing what everyone else is doing, just slightly better. But the future doesn't reward followers. It rewards creators. It rewards the ones who decide to write their own blueprint instead of copying someone else's. That's what building the future really is. It's designing a life that matches your vision instead of living a life that matches your fears. It's putting in the effort to define your values, your mission, your goals, and then aligning your actions with them consistently, even when no one's watching. Building your future also means embracing responsibility. No one else is coming to save you. No one else can put in the reps for you. No one else can do the thinking, the building, the work that only you are meant to do. It's easy to blame your past, your environment, your upbringing. It's easy to say you didn't have the same resources, the same mentors, the same advantages. But once you recognize that the future is something you can build, the excuses lose their power. You stop looking for shortcuts. You stop needing permission. You start with what you have and build from there, brick by brick, step by step, and as you build, you'll face doubt. You'll be tempted to quit. You'll wonder if it's worth it. But the ones who secure their future are the ones who keep building anyway. They don't need perfect conditions. They don't need applause. They just keep going. They stay committed to the process because they understand something fundamental, that the future isn't waiting for them. It's being shaped by them right now, with every decision they make, with every habit they reinforce, with every second they either waste or invest. The future doesn't begin someday. It begins now, with action, with clarity, with purpose. It begins the moment you decide to build it. Comfort is the enemy of progress. It's subtle, seductive, and always disguised as something good. It tells you that you've earned a break, that you're fine where you are, that there's no need to push any further. And the dangerous part is, it sounds reasonable. That voice inside your head convincing you to stay still, to wait, to postpone, rarely shouts. It whispers. It makes you feel safe while slowly pulling you away from your potential. Progress, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. It demands change, risk, effort, and most importantly, discomfort. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you make an unconscious trade. You buy momentary ease at the cost of long-term achievement. Comfort zones are beautiful illusions. They make you feel secure while limiting your evolution. They're built out of routines, habits, fears, and familiar stories you've told yourself for years. They're the boundaries where your current self feels safe, but your future self begins to suffocate. The problem is, everything you want exists outside of that zone. Every breakthrough, every skill, every opportunity you dream of is out there waiting. But you have to be willing to stretch yourself to get there. Progress is not found inside the familiar. It's found when you take a risk on something that scares you just enough to make you question if you're ready. When you choose comfort consistently, you become stagnant. You stop challenging your assumptions. You stop asking better questions. You stop putting yourself in situations that require you to grow. The world doesn't stop moving just because you do. While you settle into comfort, someone else is out there doing the uncomfortable work. They're learning the hard skills, they're facing rejection, they're showing up when it's inconvenient, they're getting better while you stay the same, and one day the gap becomes so wide you don't know how to catch up. That's the hidden cost of comfort. It steals your momentum slowly, until you forget what it feels like to truly strive for more. Comfort also feeds complacency. It tricks you into believing that good enough is good enough. That just because something is working, it doesn't need to be challenged. That just because you've seen a little success, there's no need to question how you got there. But progress isn't about maintaining. It's about evolving. If you're not willing to reevaluate, to upgrade, to let go of what's no longer serving your highest potential, you'll eventually become outdated. You don't need a crisis to grow. You need to be courageous enough to disrupt your own comfort before the world does it for you. There's no comfort in real growth. The gym hurts, rejection stings, starting from scratch feels like failure. Learning something new makes you feel stupid. Saying no to distractions isolates you, but that discomfort is a signal that you're alive, that you're doing something real, that you're moving. The pain of growth is temporary. The cost of avoiding it is permanent. It becomes the regret you carry later when you realize how far you could have gone if you had just leaned into the hard parts instead of running from them. Every great achievement has a trail of discomfort behind it. It's the price of doing anything meaningful. If you're not willing to be uncomfortable, you're not willing to progress. The people who grow, who rise, who lead, they understand this truth on a deep level. They don't seek pain for the sake of pain, but they don't run from it either. They know that discomfort is a teacher. It's an indicator that something important is happening. It's a sign that you're not coasting through life, that you're stretching, evolving, becoming. Every time you step into discomfort, you step closer to the version of yourself that can handle the future you say you want. Comfort may give you rest, but discomfort gives you results. And those results are what compound over time into something that looks like progress, but was actually forged through 100 quiet, uncomfortable decisions. No one ever saw. Your time is your most valuable asset. Protect it. It's the one resource you can't get back, can't recycle, can't regenerate. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose energy and recover it with rest. But when you lose time, it's gone for good. And yet, it's the thing people waste most casually. Every moment you give away carelessly, every hour you spend on things that don't move you forward, every day you let pass without intention is a piece of your future that dissolves quietly in the background. Time doesn't wait, and it doesn't ask for your permission. It keeps moving, whether you use it well or not. Most people live like they have forever. They delay the work. They delay the conversation. They delay the dream. They think there will always be another chance, another opening, another season, but time doesn't care about your comfort or your excuses. It rewards the ones who treat it like treasure, who don't give it away to distractions, to noise, to meaningless obligations that serve no purpose. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you're saying no to something that could have changed your life. Your calendar reflects your priorities more honestly than your words do. If you want to see what you really care about, look at how you spend your hours. The world is full of things competing for your time. Notifications, entertainment, requests from people who don't respect your boundaries, meetings that go nowhere, scrolling that numbs your mind, conversations that drain your energy. Every one of these things chips away at your focus, your drive, your clarity. And every time you let them win, you become more reactive and less intentional. You start living someone else's agenda. You start confusing motion with progress. You stay busy, but you're not building anything that lasts. And that's how years pass unnoticed, filled with days that looked full but felt empty. If you want to build something meaningful, you have to become ruthless with your time. You have to guard it like it's sacred, because it is. You have to become someone who doesn't apologize for saying no, who doesn't feel guilty for protecting their mornings, their creative hours, their thinking time. You have to value your time enough to offend people who expect you to waste it for them. Time is not just about productivity, it's about alignment. It's about making sure that the way you spend your hours reflects the future you're trying to create. Every hour you waste out of alignment is a step away from the life you're capable of living. When you control your time, you control your momentum. You decide what gets your energy, your attention, your creativity. You stop chasing urgency and start chasing impact. You stop reacting and start creating. You start living with a sense of direction, even if you're still figuring things out. And in that space, progress becomes inevitable. Because the person who shows up every day with purpose, even if they make mistakes, even if they move slowly, is always going to outperform the one who gives their time to everyone and everything but themselves. Protecting your time also means protecting your focus. It means shutting out the noise long enough to hear your own thoughts. It means creating distance between you and the chaos long enough to reconnect with your priorities. It means learning to be alone with your vision, away from the distractions, long enough to actually make progress on it. It means becoming someone who respects their own time so deeply that they refuse to trade it for anything that doesn't make them better, stronger, sharper, or closer to the life they're building. Time is not a resource to be managed. It's a resource to be honored, to be sharpened, to be protected from everything that tries to steal it without adding anything back. Keep learning or get left behind. The world is not slowing down for anyone. Technology evolves, industries shift, markets transform, and new skills replace old ones faster than ever before. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow, and what you know today could become irrelevant in a few short years. The people who rise are not the ones who know the most, but the ones who never stop learning. They adapt, they update, they stay curious even when it would be easier to settle. They treat knowledge like a daily habit, not a milestone. Learning isn't something they finish. It's something they live in. A world moving at this pace, staying still is the same as falling behind. The moment you decide you know enough, you start to decay, not because you suddenly lose your intelligence, but because you stop growing, you stop asking questions, you stop challenging your assumptions. You stop stretching your thinking, and slowly, without realizing it, you become outdated. Your mindset stays fixed while the world evolves. Your skills become stale while new ideas rise. Your relevance fades not because you weren't talented, but because you stopped evolving. Talent without growth becomes wasted potential. Learning isn't limited to books or classrooms. It happens when you pay attention, when you listen more than you speak, when you study the patterns of success and failure around you. It happens when you reflect, when you ask yourself better questions, when you stay open to being wrong. The people who stay ahead aren't the ones who pretend to have all the answers. They're the ones who keep searching for better ones. They're students of life, students of progress, students of failure, and most of all, they're students of themselves. They examine their habits, their thinking, their results, and they adjust accordingly. They are never finished products, because they don't want to be. Learning also means being humble enough to admit that you don't know everything. It takes strength to say, I need to improve. It takes courage to look at your weaknesses without flinching. Most people protect their ego at the cost of their evolution. They'd rather appear smart than become better. They'd rather be comfortable in what they know than step into the discomfort of learning something new. But progress always starts with humility. It starts with the decision to remain a beginner, even when you're already good. Especially when you're already good. Because greatness isn't found in staying where you are. It's found in what you're willing to become in a competitive world. Learning is not optional. It's the price of staying in the game. The people who win are not the ones who had a head start. They're the ones who kept going when others stopped. They outlearned their competition. They didn't rely on yesterday's effort. They didn't live off past achievements. They kept sharpening their skills. They kept updating their mindset. They kept pushing their limits not because they were told to, but because they understood what was at stake. They knew that staying the same would never be enough. Not in a world that rewards evolution. Every moment you spend learning is a seed planted in your future. It may not show results today, but it compounds. The book you read today gives you insight tomorrow. The conversation you engage in today gives you clarity next week. The new habit you build today creates momentum for next year. Learning is an investment that never stops paying returns, but only if you stay consistent. Only if you choose to grow even when you don't feel like it, even when you think you already know enough. Because the truth is, there is no finish line. There is only the next level and the next and the next. You don't need to be perfect. You need to stay in motion, stay hungry, stay curious, stay humble enough to be a student. Always act before you feel ready. Waiting for the perfect moment is the fastest way to delay your life. Most people spend years preparing, planning, thinking, hesitating, not because they're not capable, but because they're waiting for some internal signal that tells them it's finally time. But that signal rarely comes. The truth is, readiness is a myth. No one ever feels completely ready for the things that matter most. Not for starting, not for leading, not for risking, not for becoming. Readiness is built through action, not thinking. Confidence grows from doing the thing you're afraid of, not from sitting around trying to predict the outcome. You become ready by stepping into the unknown and letting it shape you. The people who build great things, who change their lives, who rise from nothing, all have one thing in common. They move before they're certain. They take the leap while their legs are still shaking. They say yes before the voice in their head talks them out of it. They take action even while they're doubting themselves. And it's not because they're fearless. It's because they've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the refusal to let fear decide what happens next. The feeling of being unprepared is not a sign to stop. It's a sign you're doing something important enough to matter. Every breakthrough starts with an imperfect step. No one writes a masterpiece on their first try. No one builds a business without mistakes. No one makes the right call every time. The people who go far aren't the ones who got it perfect from day one. They're the ones who were willing to start before they had all the answers. They trust themselves enough to begin and figure it out along the way. They use failure as feedback. They use obstacles as teachers. They build momentum by acting, not by overthinking. And over time, they separate themselves from everyone who is still stuck in analysis, still waiting for a guarantee, still asking for permission. When you act before you feel ready, you give yourself the most powerful gift: experience. Experience teaches you what theory never will. It shows you what works in real time. It sharpens your instincts. It stretches your capacity. You learn not just what to do, but how to move through doubt, how to stay steady when things don't go as planned, how to recover and recalibrate when things break. That kind of wisdom doesn't come from books or mentors. It comes from showing up and doing the hard thing even when every part of you wants to delay it. Just a little longer. Most people think they need more time to prepare, more certainty, more validation. But what they really need is movement. Action leads to clarity. Action leads to growth. Action leads to results. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start. Doubt grows in silence. Fear multiplies in stillness. But once you move, even in a small way, you weaken the grip of hesitation. You remind yourself that you are capable, even if you're not perfect. You prove to yourself that progress is possible, even if it's messy. And in that motion, you find your power. Acting before you feel ready is not recklessness. It's the beginning of transformation. It's the point where you stop living in potential and start living in purpose. It's the moment you stop watching others and start writing your own story. No one ever regrets starting too soon. They regret waiting too long. They regret letting time pass while while their dream sat on a shelf. They regret choosing comfort over courage, because when you finally begin, you realize that all the things you feared weren't as big as the fear itself, and the only thing you truly needed was the decision to begin, ready or not decide to bet on yourself, every single day. No one else can make that decision for you. No mentor, no friend, no system, no amount of praise will replace the quiet, powerful moment where you choose to believe that your future is worth fighting for. It doesn't happen once and stay forever. It's a decision that has to be made again and again, especially on the days when nothing is working, when the path looks unclear, when self-doubt starts to sound like logic. Betting on yourself means showing up not just when it's easy, not just when it's popular, but when it's inconvenient, when it's lonely, when it feels like no one understands what you're building. Most people are waiting for external permission. They're waiting for someone to say they're good enough, ready enough, talented enough to begin. But the truth is, no one's going to come hand you your moment. You have to create it, and that creation begins with a choice to trust yourself even before the results show up. A choice to back your vision even when it's still just an idea. A choice to stand firm in your direction even when the crowd is going the other way. That's what betting on yourself looks like. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's a quiet defiance against every excuse trying to keep you average. When you bet on yourself, you take responsibility. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop leaning on your past. You stop looking for shortcuts. You start owning your habits, your discipline, your energy, your outcomes. You start realizing that the gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't talent, it's ownership. The people who create change don't always have the best resources, but they make the most of what they've got, and they double down on what they can control. They build skill where others wait for luck. They build habits where others hope for motivation. They make it happen because they've decided they will. Betting on yourself also means accepting risk. It means knowing that things won't always work out the first time, or the 5th time, or maybe even the 50th. But you keep going anyway. You take the shot without the guarantee. You invest the hours without the applause. You put in the work without knowing exactly how it will pay off. And that's where real strength is built, not in the outcome, but in the process. Because every time you back yourself through the uncertainty, you build something more important than success. You build trust in your ability to rise, to endure, to figure it out. It's easy to bet on yourself when things are going well. When you're winning, when people are noticing, when the results are clear. But the real test comes when it's quiet, when there's no momentum, when it feels like you're invisible. That's where most people stop. They start questioning everything. They start looking for validation outside of themselves. But the ones who keep going, those are the ones who truly understand what it means to bet on yourself. They don't need applause to keep moving. They don't need guarantees to keep showing up. They keep going because they've made a decision that doesn't depend on how things feel. It depends on who they've decided to become. Betting on yourself doesn't mean you'll never fail. It means you'll never settle. It means you'll keep rising, keep learning, keep showing up with integrity and resilience no matter how many times it takes. You'll stop living for approval and start living with intention. You'll stop shrinking your vision to fit into someone else's expectation. You'll grow into it. You'll build into it. You'll fight for it. Because you've decided that your potential is non-negotiable. Your future is worth the risk, and your life is too valuable to be lived on the sidelines of your own story.